On our front story this morning, we're looking at prices, transport fares. We have had conversations with the GPRTU before, asking them why the fares are not dropping, although we are seeing certain changes, good changes actually, and they told us that, well, we'll hear from them. It's been a while, and Ghanaians have still not heard from the GPRTU, and transport fares remain unchanged, despite a consistent decline in fuel prices across the country. And so this has become a growing concern for commuters, you and I, who use the public transport, and a point of contention for consumer advocacy groups. You remember the last time we spoke with CATS International, we're looking at what regulations there are for our transport operators. In the first pricing window of May 2025, some oil marketing companies in Ghana have reduced pump prices for petrol and diesel by an average of 0.80 Ghana cedis per litre. That is about 80 pesos per litre. And the latest round of price reductions is notably steeper than those recorded in the second pricing window of April and before that, which saw more modest adjustments. If you'd recall, during the second pricing window in April, that was between April 16 and April 30, petrol sold between 14.50 Ghana cedis and 13.87 Ghana cedis per litre, while diesel ranged from 14.77 Ghana cedis to 15.30 Ghana cedis. And as of Monday, May 5, 2025, the updated figures show that petrol is retailing between 12.99 Ghana cedis and 13.79 Ghana cedis, and diesel between 13.00 Ghana cedis and 13.99 Ghana cedis and 14.89 Ghana cedis per litre at various outlets. And so the drop in fuel prices is largely attributed to the decline in global prices of refined petroleum products on the market and the relatively stable Ghana cedi that we are enjoying at this point. The cedi has appreciated, and according to the Bank of Ghana, the bank says that the cedi has appreciated by some 2.76% against the US dollar. And so we have seen that there are some good rates. On May 5, just recently, the interbank exchange rate was averaging between 13.6568 per US dollar, Ghana cedis per US dollar, while the commercial banks quoted it at 13.98. As of today, it's around 13.2 Ghana cedis per dollar. So it means that the cedi is doing well. It is appreciating, and so it's supposed to translate. The same way when it is depreciating, it translates into fares, into the food we buy. We expect that when it also appreciates, it translates into how we spend our money. But for some reason, it is not so for us here in the country. And so we want better, we expect better. That's why I want to speak with the GPRTU today. When you look at the transport fares, or you look at the fuel pricing, check GOIL, and you see the price GOIL is selling their fuel at the moment. And we know that GOIL leads the way for many others to follow. You sit in a church, or for those of you who do church a lot, and you know that the church drivers will tell you that, oh, this is how much GOIL is selling fuel, so this is how they can average it around. Effective May 5, GOIL was quoting their prices at Super XP 13.69 Ghana cedis per litre, Diesel XP 14.41 Ghana cedi per litre, and Super XP 95 at 15.11 Ghana cedis per litre. But despite all of these price cuts, our commercial transport operators have yet to adjust their fares. And so passengers are complaining because when the fuel prices go up, you adjust upwards. We see the paper hanging in the cars. When you even ask the church mates, they won't even speak. The first thing they do is to just give you the paper and tell you that, beg your pardon, they will tell you that this is not coming from them. This is from their various union leaders. They'll show it to you and tell you that's from their unions. It's from GPRT. GPRTU has agreed to that, has stamped it, and so that is what they are taking. And so when you see, anytime you see price adjustments which is upwards, there's always heated debate in the churches. Even up until now, when you think that it should have stabilized, there's still debates, because you bought a vehicle for a short distance, this church may takes this price, the next one you bought takes this price, and so you're confused. Where does it stand? Now we are seeing cuts. We're seeing prices that are going lower and lower and lower by the day for the fuel at the pump, and so we expect to see some price adjustments downwards to help passengers. Because it's not like when fuel price goes up, your salary goes up. Does it? I don't think so. And so you're already managing the little you have. You're squeezing yourself to be able to afford to board a vehicle in and out daily, whether to work, whether to church, wherever you're going, you're spending money on that. And so if the prices are being reviewed downwards, you would also expect that it will translate into your life. And so it's for this reason why we have this discussion today. We're looking forward to speaking with the GPRTU so that we find out from them, should we expect any downward price adjustments in the coming days? They seem to have been quiet for a while now. We've not heard from them in quite a while. And so we'll be speaking with GPRTU, find out from them that should we expect any price cuts in the coming days, so that we'll know whether we should breathe a sigh of relief, we should take a sigh of relief, or we should still be agitated that the prices are not going down. How much do you pay for transport in your neighborhood? What's the cost for the shortest distance? When you bought a church, when you bought a taxi, how much do you pay? When you use your various ride-hailing apps, how much do you pay? How much does it cost you to even go about your day? Were you going to work and you had to board two vehicles from your home to your work? How much do you spend? And when you're going back home, how much do you spend? You know the sad thing about all of these price hikes? The church fares are already expensive. And unfortunately, some of the church drivers, like how early it is this morning, 6:45, go to the various stations and church drivers are not loading to the main destination. And so let me give you a typical example. Say you were going from Ashongman Estate to Accra and you were boarding a church. For a journey that you would have just boarded one vehicle all the way from Ashongman to Accra and say paid 10 Ghana cedis as your fare, church mates and their drivers, as early as this morning, where the passenger need is high, the passengers need the vehicles to go their way, church mates and their drivers will not load a straight Accra. They would load, say, to Dome, or if they are magnanimous enough, to Achimota. So that is where they are loading to. That's what they are telling you they are loading to. And from there, they would load again. And so my destination is Accra. I'm going to Accra from Ashongman Estate. I bought a vehicle and they tell me Dome or Achimota. So let's use Dome because it's quite very normal that they do that. And I understand it happens in other places too. And so you bought to Dome, you get to Dome and now they tell you circle. If you're unlucky, they'll actually start loading to Achimota. And so let's say circle. So now you'd have to pay Dome to circle first. So mind you, you've already paid one leg of the fare. Now you pay a second leg of the fare. You get to circle and now they start loading from circle to Accra. And so you are actually going to Accra, but you would have paid 3 times before you got to Accra. That is how much. That is what most of the drivers and their mates are doing. And it's replicated in other places. And so instead of 10 cedis, by the time you would have gotten to your destination, you would have been paying about 15 cedis. That is 1.5 of the fare. If you are coming back from Accra and it was afternoon. From Accra to Ashoman Estate again, maybe you pay 10 cedis. Trotro drivers will load from Accra to Dome, and they'll say Dome straight. And how much will they take? 10 Ghana cedis. Meanwhile, from Accra to Dome should have maybe cost about 7 cedis, 7 cedi, 50 pesos. But they would have collected 10 cedis from you, and you have no option than to pay for it. You get to Dome, and you're continuing, and you have to pay another extra. And so again, you would have been paying more than you would normally pay. For those who live in Dome, where they would have paid just 7 cedis or 7 cedi, 50 pesos from Accra to Dome, they would end up paying 10 cedis. And then passengers would have to force and pay because there are no vehicles. And so in the mornings, in order to beat that, you would rather want to wake up so early and get your church at around 4 a.m. just so you can get a straight vehicle. But if you wait until it's 5 or 5:30 a.m., I'm sorry for you, you would have to start paying that very exorbitant fare because you'd have to pay in pieces. You have to board the trotro in bits, in pieces. When you're coming back from Accra in the morning, okay, you will get a very straight car. But when it's afternoon, it's from around 1 p.m. coming down till 5. You'll have to pay these fares. You go to Circle in the evening and you're standing at the roadside, and trotros come and park and they tell you they are going to Amasaman Strait, Pokwasi Strait, and they are quoting prices that are ridiculous, about double the usual fares. And passengers have no option than to board it because who is going to take their usual fare? None of them. You ask the trotro drivers and their mates, and they tell you that there are so many factors that influence why they take these. But these are not your usual prices. These are not the prices that have been sanctioned by your various station masters and GPRTU. But it looks like there's no regulation. And so at the end of the day, the consumer always is the one who suffers the burden, the brunt of whatever is happening at the beginning end. And so those at the receiving are the ones who always suffer. And so whoever is taking extra money from the trotro drivers and their mates at the top, those at the bottom have to fuel the payments they are making. And so the trotro driver and their mates in the middle can't suffer the burden. It is the passenger who must suffer it. And passengers, although you complain, you have to still pay it. I don't know for you at home if you have experienced this. I have experienced it. I know others who have experienced this, who experience it on the daily when they have to pay so much for trotro. So say I was just going to Accra and I would pay 10 cedis to go to Accra. Because drivers and their mates say that they have to sort certain people on the road, now I have to pay 15 cedis. When I'm coming back, maybe I have to pay another 15 cedis or maybe more. And so instead of, say, 20 cedis as my trotro cost, I would end up paying 30 cedis or over 30 cedis. Is it fair to the consumer? Is it fair to the consumer? Who is looking out for the consumer in this whole space of it? A few days ago, I was on Facebook, somebody posted that GPRTU, do you know that this is what trotro drivers are doing to us? For most of the drivers in the stations, they continue to stay within the system. But when you get out of the station, it's ridiculous. For some, even when they are in the stations, it's still ridiculous. And then passengers have to bear the brunt of it, the burden of it. The drivers say that we can't blame them. They have to pay loading boys along the way. And we've asked before, who sanctioned these gentlemen to be loading boys? To the point where a driver could park their car and somebody will come and clamp it. Are you from the assembly? They say that chief says that you have to give us this money. And you'll be in a trotro and they will pay everywhere they get to. They have to give them some money. And so at the end of the day, how much are the trotro drivers also making? when at every point along the road they have to pay somebody some money. You are a passenger, you are standing by the road, you know that this is a bus stop, churches come here. And so when a church comes and it's going my way, I board it. They will tell you that you can't sit in this car, you have to sit in this car. As sanctioned by who? At a bus stop, who sanctions which car you can sit in? There's so many questions that need answers to, because the passenger is always at the unfortunate end of the rope. The short end of the rope is what the passenger is always clasping to, and has to pay all of these monies to church mates and their drivers. It's no wonder that when prices are adjusted upwards, passengers are unhappy. Sometimes you wonder, you're like, it is just 50 pesos, it's just 1 cedi. Why are you so agitated? But sometimes it's not really about the money. It's about the principle of it. If the adjustment is 50 pesos and you go and sit in the church and the mate says that we are taking 1 cedi because we don't have 50 pesos change. It happens a lot. Maybe the adjustment is 60 pesos and so the mate has to give you 40 pesos. It says, you need 40 pesos, you need 40 pesos. But the principle of it, if this is the money, give me my change. If I decide to leave it for you, that's fine. There was one church shop, and the mate said, it was a station church actually, and the mate said it was supposed to be 90 50 pesos as transportation cost. And the mate says he was going to take 10 cedis. For what reason? Because he said he was doing the passengers a favor by picking them, and they said, nope. You see, so at the end of the day, arguments will start. What for? Because of the principle of it. If you're supposed to give me 10 pesos, I deserve to receive the 10 pesos, and if I say that keep the change, you keep it. But it doesn't happen so, and so the passengers are always the ones at the receiving end of it. And you know that there are so many churches in our country. So many people use churches as their daily mode of transportation. And so we really cannot discount them in the conversation about transportation. Not at all. Because how many people go by taxis every day? How many people use ride-hailing apps every day? Maybe on the off chance when you're in a hurry and you think, okay, today I want to order a ride and then go quickly. But more things than not, everybody uses Trotro, except you have a car and you drive, or you have a company vehicle that picks you up. But everybody uses Trotro. It's morning. What's the time at this time? At this moment, it's 6:56 a.m. Go to the various stations. You see the queues, very long queues. You want to beat traffic, so you get there early, get there at 5 a.m. Your kids need to go to school, they go by Trotro. And so we cannot discount Trotros when you're talking about transportation modes in our country. However, the passengers continue to bemoan the prices. JPRTU says that we should at least tell them they have done well, because for a period now, although when fuel prices kept appreciating, going up, they did not adjust their prices upwards, and so we should give it up to them for thinking about the consumer. However, we'll call that an outlier. We'll call that an outlier because more often than not, in the grand scheme of things, prices are always adjusted upwards. And who thinks about the consumer? Who thinks about the passenger? You sit in a car, and when you get down, it's either your dress is torn or the rusty metal cut you somewhere. Who is making sure that the best of Trotros are on the road? You sit in a Trotro, and then it breaks down along the road. You sit in a Trotro, and then driver says, my fuel is finished. Driver, didn't your gauge show you that your tank was getting empty? So there's so many conversations that ought to be had. From mates verbally abusing passengers, drivers adding to the verbal abuse of passengers, who speaks for the passenger? The drivers and their mates also share their concerns. They talk about how they are affected in various ways, the money they have to pay here and there along the road, and they have no option than to pay. They stop at a bus stop, they pick one person. There's someone there who says that Fasikabra. Meanwhile, maybe this person you picked is just going a distance that will pay 5 cedis, and the one there says that Fasikabra. So Fasikabra, no, how much is the driver and their mates making? At the end of the day, they'll have to go and render account to the car owner. They'll have to buy fuel. They'll have to service their cars. So how much do they make at the end of the day? Fasikabra, along the way, from, let's say, from Trade Fair all the way to La Paz, you take money from the driver at least 4 times before they get to La Paz. And so the driver is suffering. So somebody is going to Kaswa. They really boarded a vehicle, and you know this is a Kaswa-bound churchill. But the churchill will tell you that they are going to La Paz. When you get to La Paz, they'll start loading to Kaswa. So you have to pay 2 fares. You are going to Dakuman. You boarded a churchill. It's telling you we are going to La Paz. You get to La Paz, it starts loading to Dakuman. And so wherever you are, the passenger is suffering. How much is the passenger making at work and having to spend all of that on fuel? It's why we wanted to have some conversations with GPRC. Unfortunately, we are unable to establish contact with them at this moment. But rest assured, we'll most definitely bring you the conversation with GPRC. We were looking forward to speaking with Abbas Simoro, who is the industrial relations officer for GPRC. He's spoken to us on a number of occasions, and so we know that at some point we will get to speak with him. We understand that GPRC also has a press conference that will be happening very soon. We'll look forward to what will come out of the press conference, and then we will speak with them. They will be having the press conference today at 10 a.m. and so very soon when that conference happens, they address the press. We'll bring you all of the information there. We're hoping that during their press conference, GPRC will be announcing to us that transportation costs or transportation fares are going to be adjusted, reviewed downwards, so that passengers will have some respite from how much they are already paying. You find a mother, a father sitting in a trotro and 4 kids. They are paying for only 1 seat, because if they are paying for all 4 seats, they cannot bear the cost. And so 4 kids, mother or father pays for 1 seat and all of the children. And so when they sit in the trotro, they start to distribute the children to other passengers. They do not know. Go and sit with uncle. They don't know them. But the fares are too expensive. But let me also be quick to commend some of the trotro drivers and their mates. When they like mornings such as these, or say around 3 p.m. when many of the schools have closed, some of them pick the school children, the pupils, for free. You know, some of these kids will come and sit in the church. There's so many, and they're paying for just 1 person. About 6 children, they'll take up the seat that is made for 4 people, and they'll all squeeze themselves into one corner, and they'll pay for 1 person. They won't get out at one place, maybe on the whole stretch. They all get out at different points, and the drivers and their mates humor them. They pick them, sometimes make them even fill the seats and don't take anything from them. When you ask them, they tell you, oh, we no more. These children are the ones we work with. And so sometimes they also make the lives of the school children easier than it would be. So yes, some trotro drivers and their mates are doing so well, and kudos to them. I mean, when they are taking extra money from us, we'll say it, and when they do some good work too, we'll say it. At least I can't speak for the trotro drivers in Ashongman Estate, seen the number of times they've picked school children after school and dropped them off along the road, and really they did not take any money from them. Maybe took money for just one seat and allowed them to fill one whole stretch at the back and drop them off. And so, I mean, we understand all of the nuances in the conversation, but we also expect transport fares to go down. And we're also hoping that GPRT takes a look at the thought fares that they take. GPRT should step in and review that. It's happening everywhere. Just go to Circle today. Maybe make Circle your just decide to make a case study and go to Circle at about 7 p.m. Okay, just go and start by the roadside where the cars are passing all the way to Pokwase Amasaman, where the cars pass right after the Nkrumah statue, and then watch the churches come and park, watch the loading boys come, and sometimes even the mates sometimes say they want to go the normal route, and loading boys will say no. They have so much power, you know. And watch how there are cars there, but people are standing because they can't afford to pay the amounts that they'll be paying when they sit in the cars. Some drivers will tell you there's a lot of traffic on the road, and so if I take this amount of money and I take you, how much will I get? By the time I'll come back, there will be no passengers, and so they have to take the thought. They have to collect a lot of money from the passengers. Some passengers would wait in hopes that a regular trotro will come and they will board it, and others, when they just can't wait any longer, would have to board it. And so we understand the work trotro drivers and their mates are doing. We really understand and we appreciate their work. But the passenger is also suffering, and so we are looking forward to a downward adjustment. And also, where the number of government buses will be a lot on our roads, so that we don't only have to rely on trotros. We see the Ayalolos and the rest in some parts, in some places, and you see how they get full. But if they were more than they are, it would also be a respite for passengers. We're looking at there being more regulation when it comes to how we are charged on our roads. We need a lot of regulation in our system, and I believe it will help very much. Yes, it would help very much. If there were buses, really more buses, it would help. And trotros, we hope that you also do some more work on your cars. The passenger is paying so much, and on top of that, their attire will be torn, the metal will nick them. No, we're hoping that better is that the Ghanaian passenger deserves better. Really, really, really better. The Ghanaian passenger deserves better. At the end of the day, they can't sit in a trotro that when it's raining, they are in a vehicle, but it's raining. It's more like they were walking on the streets. No, we need better. Better must be done. But we'll bring you all the latest from the GPRT when they have their press conference, and rest assured we'll bring you the conversation that we're looking forward to having with them. But that's all for our front story this morning.